I'm not really sure the Toyota Camry needs an introduction, so let's get to it. There are 4 different versions of the Toyota Camry in Australia. The entry-level version is available with a petrol engine or petrol-electric hybrid, while the other 3 higher spec models are all hybrid only. So that makes your decision for you. If you're after the petrol one, you've got to buy the base car, but look, it doesn't really feel that special, but it does have some nice features inside and out. But I reckon that the better buy, if you are looking to save as much money as you possibly can but still get into a Camry Hybrid, is to go for the Ascent Sport model. Now, it gets a few really nice features that you will appreciate. You get keyless entry, push button start, the bigger 9-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and SatNav is standard with that bigger screen as well. And it really does feel a bit more special on the inside. You also get a leather-lined steering wheel. It looks a little bit different too, so it could be the pick for most people who are looking to save a few bucks. Plus, you also get blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, which you don't get on the base model car, and you really should. Plus, it also gets front and rear parking sensors as well. You only get a reverse camera on the base car. So, look, it seems to make a lot of sense, the Ascent Sport grade, but if you want something that looks a little bit sportier, then the SX model could be a good choice for you. It gets 19-inch alloy wheels, firmer, sportier suspension, a different look to the outside, and it really does have, well, some interesting elements to it. If you think that a sporty car is a Camry, then good for you, but I don't really get the point of the SX grade. At least it's got a nice interior trim finish. And so does this one here, which is the top spec model. It's the SL, and it's more than 50,000 bucks these days before on-road costs. So just keep in mind, if you see the pricing on the screen that I've put up and then you go to the Toyota website and you go, hey, there's like a $4,000 or $5,000 difference. That's because of the on-road costs that Toyota dealers will add on. So that's things like stamp duty, registration, dealer delivery, all those sorts of things that you might have to pay extra for. Stepping up to the SL grade does get you a few really nice features. Just like the model below though, it does have leather accented seats, and in this grade they are heated and cooled, and you also get electric steering column adjustment as well. To make it feel a bit more special, there's electric seat adjustment for the front seats too, so it does have a few really nice interior features that make it feel a bit more special, including a 9-speaker JBL sound system as well, which really does pump. It's pretty good. Now, just remember though that if you buy the SL, you have to step back down to a 18-inch wheel and a standard suspension setup instead of the 19s and sporty suspension you get on the SX grade. So I reckon that the SL makes sense if you're looking for something that is a bit luxury, but hey, I've got a luxury alternative that you might also want to consider. What about something a little bit smaller, but still with a Toyota badge and still with hybrid powertrains available? Yep, I'm talking about the Corolla sedan. And if you haven't seen my review, hit the link up there and you'll be able to check it out. I reckon the Corolla sedan in hybrid spec is an absolute bargain because it's real world efficient. It costs a lot less than this. And actually, I think it looks better. But tell me what you think in the comments. Hey, so it would be one that I recommend you should check out if you are okay with sacrificing a little bit of space but saving a little bit of money in order to do that. Another vehicle under the Toyota umbrella is the Lexus ES. Now, the ES is essentially a Camry, but with different looks, more style and more sophistication, a higher price tag obviously. So if you are considering a high grade version of a Camry, then a Lexus ES could be a really good alternative if you don't mind spending a little bit more. And you do get something that is a little bit more special inside and out in my opinion, and also you get that Lexus charm when it comes to the ownership experience, which apparently is like life-changing. Once you've owned one, you won't want to own anything else. So yeah, that could be part of your decision process. But there's another alternative that you might also want to look at, the Skoda Octavia. Now it comes as a liftback sedan and a station wagon. The wagon is super duper practical. I lived with one for a while at my old job and I thought it was great apart from some tech issues which I had with it throughout the life of the car. But I do think that it does offer a fair amount of space, practicality and value for money, especially if you want something that is a bit sportier. You can get the RS version of the Octavia and it is excellent. But tell me which one you would pick in the comments section below. The Toyota Camry is considered a medium-sized car in Australia, but it's 4.9 metres long, which is pretty bloody long. It's going to be a challenge to fit one of these in some of those new build garages that you find in developments around big cities like Sydney. So You'll need to do your measurements, but first, you might also want to consider this. So these doors do not open the full 90 degrees, as you can see. So that means that if you have a little one, like in a child seat, it might be a little bit difficult to actually reach in and out. I mean, obviously it's a sedan, you have to bend over a little bit, hurts your back, but hey, if you are looking for a sedan, that door thing might be an issue if you've got young kids. Righto, let's check out the boot and see if there's any issues here. What is a little bit annoying is that it's got the gooseneck hinge thing happening, so they don't hide away those hinges and they can eat into space just a bit, so keep that in mind. But space, honestly, is exceptional in the back of the Camry sedan. You'll see the figure on your screen now for the hybrid versions of this car, and yes, that is more boot capacity than if you choose the petrol version, because the petrol model has a full-size spare wheel underneath the boot floor, whereas this one here, instead, which you can do this little hook thing, which is quite nice. It's got a space saver spare wheel under the boot floor, as well as battery pack stuff. So look, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, I don't think, but if you want hybrid, you can't have a full size. And if you want a full size, you can't have hybrid, at least not straight from the factory. You might be able to bodgy a way of doing it yourself. Honestly though, boot space, very, very good in here. Exceptional, in fact. Yeah, so that tells you you're in the top spec model, because the SL grade gets this big glass roof with an opening blind and also a sunroof section as well. So it does feel instantly a bit more special than the lower grade versions, and that also comes down to the materials used in this spec. So they are leather accented seats, not full hunky-dory leather, but hey, apparently that's on the nose anyway. So look, these seats are comfy. They are, well, nicely form fitted. They're not too big. Some other Camrys in the past had quite flat seats, but these ones are quite nice, and I find them really comfortable after a couple of days of driving this car. And also the material finishes along the dashboard and on the doors are all pretty high quality. So you've got this fake leather look stuff here. You've got similar sort of stuff on the doors as well, and on the elbow pads between the center console here as well. So look, you do have a nice level of sophistication when it comes to the material finishes in here. Obviously this is the high grade one, so it does get the special stuff like this nice weird looking etched style finish on the dash. There's lots of piano black, which I don't love, but at least it's not in the spots where your fingers are always touching. You also get ambient lighting in this high grade model as well. And look, it's not brand new feeling. This car has been on sale since 2017, I think it was, and facelifted in 21. So it's not at the cutting edge of modern day vehicle design on the inside, but it's fine for this application in my opinion. In fact, it nails it for the type of buyer who's going to be looking at a Camry. Tell me if I'm wrong. But to me, the interior does have a pretty nice feel. Look, I don't think it feels as high-tech as some newer models out there, but I think it does what it's supposed to do for this type of car. Look, all the controls are pretty easy to get to grips with. You've got climate controls, you've got fan buttons, there's a recirc button as well. Up here, the touchscreen media system, look, it's running the older Toyota software, so it's not as new or special feeling as some of the newer models, but actually there's fewer glitches with this tech. And also you get the buttons down the side of the screen here, dials down the bottom for your tuning and volume. And sure, the maps look a little bit old school, but look, the interaction with this screen is pretty good. I find that it is pretty simple to get your head around, so that's good to see. And also it does have wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so look, that's fantastic. There's a little digital screen in front of the driver as well between the conventional dials, and look, it's very simple to get your head around as well. Everything in here is pretty simple to get your head around, so it's a smart space. There's good storage. You've got cup holders between the seats. There's bottle holders in the doors. There's a little hidden tray beneath it as well, and a big covered center console bin. So it's nailing it when it comes to the smarts. Is it good enough for space in the back? Let's have a look. The back seat space is pretty good in the Camry. So this seat is set for my driving position at 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall. I've got enough knee room. My foot room's a little bit cramped in terms of toe space, but I've got pretty big feet. And I'm rather tall, so it is, you know, not necessarily the most spacious in terms of headroom, especially in this grade with the big sunroof. So that might be a consideration for you. Maybe buy a cheaper one if you've got tall backseat occupants, but you will find that there is a nice amount of amenities in the back here. You've got directional air vents, a couple of USB-C ports, mat pockets on the seats. You've also got bottle holders in the doors and a flip down armrest, which flop down is probably a better term for that. It's got cup holders there as well. So you've also got ISOFIX points in the window seats and 3 top tether points too. So it is going to fit the needs of most people who are buying this as a family car or as an Uber car or something like that. Look, you could do a lot worse, although I would say again that headspace is the big issue in this high grade version. I like that you get map lights up here though, or reading lights. That's nice to see. I've mentioned it already, but there's 2 different powertrain options available in the Camry range. The entry-level version is a 2.5 litre non-hybrid, non-turbo, 4-cylinder petrol engine, so just a plain old conventional 4-cylinder engine. And it does have pretty decent power and torque figures, and it also has an 8-speed automatic transmission and it's front-wheel drive. Now, the version that most people buy when they buy a Camry, like 95% of people, is this one here. It's the 2.5 litre petrol electric 4-cylinder hybrid system, and it obviously has a battery pack, an electric motor, and the 4-cylinder petrol engine all working together with front-wheel drive and an eCVT, so a continuously variable transmission. Look, that might not light many people's fires, but this is a pretty good powertrain. I'm going to tell you about it now. Now, the Toyota Camry is more fun to drive than you might expect. Look, I wouldn't say that it's sporty, but it is pretty nice to drive. So it's built on the Toyota new generation architecture, TNGA they call it, and that means that you sort of sit down low and you've got really, really nice, accurate steering, like a lot of other new Toyotas. It's very easy and fun to drive to a degree. Look, it's just more livable than Camrys in years gone by. So yeah, it does sit quite low though. So keep that in mind. If you live on a, an offset, unpleasant driveway, yeah, you might want to test this car on your driveway when you go out on a test drive, because it is low. But it also has the benefit of a really comfortable ride. So if you live in an area where the roads maybe aren't perfect, my area is like that, and the roads are lumpy, bumpy, and pretty unyielding, yeah, then the suspension in this car might surprise you because it's really quite good. It's obviously also the hybrid model, so that means that you get the hybrid powertrain, and hybrid power also means a fair bit of power. So yeah, about 160 kilowatts combined power output. That means this car will zip away from standstill, from traffic lights, from intersections, that sort of thing. So if you are looking for a vehicle that is a little bit zippier than others, certainly could be worth a look. Also keep in mind though that you've got a few different drive modes. You've got Eco, which just dulls everything down. You got Normal, which I've been driving in, and then there's also a Sport mode. So if you want to, I mean, it doesn't change the steering or anything like that. It just makes the powertrain a bit more responsive. Yeah, and it is more responsive. So yeah, it's, in case you need it, you've got a sportier driving mode. It is relatively quiet as well. Sure, the petrol engine, because it's teamed to a CVT automatic transmission, it means that you do get a little bit of sort of raucousness at times, but only when you're really, really heavy on the throttle. And it seems that it is pretty quiet in most situations, even on the freeway. Look, it's not serene, I wouldn't say. There's a little bit of tyre noise to contend with, but I will also say though that the point of buying the hybrid one is that it will always be constantly dipping in and out of EV driving mode or petrol mode, or a combination of the two. So if it's in EV mode, it'll be basically silent while you're just cruising around. Right now it's doing whatever it needs to do to get me up this hill. Now it'll flick over to EV mode as we go down the hill, and yeah, you see a little light come up on the screen that tells you you're in EV driving mode. And it does that so much, more often than you would probably expect if you've never driven a Toyota Hybrid before. And that's the beauty of this powertrain, the way that it manages to choose between petrol and electric or a combo to suit the circumstances based on, what you're doing with the throttle and that sort of stuff. It's really, really clever, and it does make for a real world, properly efficient vehicle for something this big. I've been impressed by the efficiency figures. Let's talk about them. So, the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the Camry Hybrid is incredible. You'll see it on your screen now. Now that's what you should be able to achieve across a mix of driving. And what I've seen over a week of driving, including the usual stuff I do, there was highway, freeway, urban running, daycare drop-off, that sort of stuff. You'll see that on your screen now. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Now, if you are considering the petrol model, you will have to consider a slightly higher fuel consumption situation. So the official numbers on your screen now, in my experience, you're going to see something more like 8.5 litres per 100 Ks in the petrol versions. So yeah, it's not as fuel efficient, but hey, saves you money if you don't need hybrid technology. Although you might be losing money if you don't choose the hybrid, because in future, when it comes to resell the vehicle or trade it in, a hybrid's going to be worth more, trust me. Now you also need to consider that the Camry range, both the petrol one and the petrol electric hybrid, requires 95 RON premium unleaded, so that's another calculation you'll need to keep in mind when you're choosing your Camry. The Toyota Camry achieved the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2017, but it's still valid until the end of 2024. So it is still a pretty safe car by modern standards, with things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian detection. There's active lane keeping assistance. You get high beam assist. You also get a speed sign recognition system, adaptive cruise control. And if you choose the Ascent Sport, the SX or the SL, you also get blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, which you miss out on the base model car, which I think is a bit cheap, but it's also missing front and rear parking sensors, which you do get on all the other grades. And you get a reversing camera in all grades, but also a surround view camera if you choose the SL as well. There's a fair few airbags in this car as well, 7 in fact, dual front, front side, driver's knee, and full length curtain coverage. So it is covered when it comes to safety. Toyota Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty on all of its models, plus there's the availability of a 7-year powertrain warranty if you maintain logbook servicing. You don't even need to service it with Toyota. You just need to make sure that it is stamped by an authorised mechanic every time you get your service done. And if you own a hybrid version or plan to buy one, just keep in mind that you can get up to 10 years of battery warranty for the hybrid system if you have an annual health check done by Toyota. So you might want to stick with Toyota, and hey, the service prices make it seem like a pretty good idea to do that anyway. You'll see them on your screen now. That's the average over the first 5 years, or 75,000 Ks, whether you choose the petrol or the hybrid, and both models have 12-month, 15,000 kilometre intervals. Now, if you're wondering, there is no roadside assist offered as standard for Toyota. It's just something you have to pay extra for. And you also get 3 years subscription to the Toyota Connected Services. So that is an online data management system which basically can do things for you in the event of an emergency. So for instance, if you were in a crash, it could call emergency services and tell them where you are based on your location, or it could even do stolen vehicle tracking. So if your car was nicked, it'd keep an eye on where it went, which is pretty neat technology. It is so easy to see why the Toyota Camry is very popular, even a few years into its life cycle, or almost at the end of this generation's life cycle. But look, it still offers so much to so many people for relatively little money, at least in the lower grade versions. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose a high grade Camry or one of the cheaper ones? Would you choose one of the alternatives I already mentioned, or something completely different? I'd love to hear from you, and especially if you're stuck on the SUV bandwagon, hit me up in the comments and tell me why. And if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.